Hi, Si here from Music Radar. Today I'm joined by Stu and we are checking out the EVANS Sensory Percussion System. So Stu, tell us all about the sensory percussion system from EVANS here. What is it? What does it do?
Well, what doesn't it do? Sensory percussion has been around a little while now. This is the version 2, which has just been released. And EVANS have partnered with Sunhouse, who are the original creators of sensory percussion, to kind of revamp the whole setup really. And they've overhauled these sensors. Mm-hmm. And the portal module is a new kind of design for them, and then they've also created a new version of the sensory percussion software, which we'll get into later on.
Yeah. So it's all brand new. This is all brand new.
Yeah, the concept is kind of been developed, but yeah, this is kind of like all brand new, kind of overhauled stuff. It works quite differently to kind of other hybrid electronic type percussion stuff, because these that look like triggers are in fact actually sensors.
And not triggers, sensors.
They're not not triggers, they're sensors, and they work by attaching to the rim like a trigger would, but you've also got underneath here kind of metal sensor elements, so they work kind of magnetically between the element and the actual sensor.
So you stick something to this mesh head here, or you can be a normal head, any head.
Works on mesh heads, which is what we're using today, the EVANS DB1, but you can also put these on standard acoustic heads of any brand. You stick the element to the head, put the sensor onto the rim of the drum, and then from there it's capable of splitting each drum, and each sensor can create up to 10 zones per drum.
Oh, wow, 10 zones, that's loads. And that's like, well, it depends on which drum. They're all slightly different shapes, and then you design all of that in there, in the software.
Yeah, and then so that the sensors connect to the portal interface there, which in turn connects to the computer, and then you can define the zones and which sounds are kind of assigned to each zone within the software.
Yeah, and then the software itself is packed jam full of
loads of sound packs, loads of effects, loads of ways of manipulating the audio with kind of sort of modulators and generators, sequencers, samplers, all sorts of stuff.
It's quite deep.
It's very deep,
which we're going to get into in a bit.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, Stu, in the box you get the sensors, the portal, and then the software we've downloaded, installed, and all that. But also, I'd like you to show me how these things actually attach to the drums and the skins and stuff. This is the sensor element, isn't it?
Sensor elements, yeah. The whole kit comes with, I think there's 9 of these in there, so there's spares for you to be able to kind of put it on different drums if you've got multiple kind of drums that you want to use across the thing. But essentially this works as a kind of measurement tool. So while it's a V-shaped piece of metal, it's only really the little dot that sticks to the head.
That's left behind.
And this purely gives you kind of like the right distance from the rim, so that when you stick it to the head and clamp the sensor on, it's reading right above the dot.
Perfect. Right, let's do that now then.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay then, Stu, everything's out of the box. We've attached all the sensors, done the little measurement things, all that's done. Everything's hooked up. But before we can actually play anything, we need to train them, don't we?
Yeah, you do. With the sensory percussion software, it will walk you through it. Yeah. But to give you your kind of 10 zones, you've got multiple levels of training. So you don't have to have 10 zones, you can have up to that many. There's 3 layers of training for each drum. And basically you just kind of set it. There's a thing that will walk you through it, and you hit each zone kind of roughly around 100 times, and then it knows that's the center, that's the edge, that's the rim. And there's loads. You can hit the side of the shell, you can do cross sticks, and you can do what they call a stick hit, which is that, and will produce a different zone. So there's lots you can do. For now, I think we'll just train it each one to kind of level 1, just to keep it simple.
Yeah, but you can go super, like lots of gestural differences, and yeah, wicked. All right, let's do that now. Right then, Stu, we've described what comes in the box. Of course, let's focus on the software here of the Sensory Percussion System. We've installed, we're fully loaded up. All the sound source, that comes from the software, doesn't it?
Yeah, everything's generated from within the software. So the interface itself isn't actually creating any sounds or anything. It's literally an interface to get your sensor signal into the computer where everything happens.
Okay, I/O. The brain. Well, that is technically a brain as well, but this is where all the sound comes from. So we've got 3 main views here. We have a play, edit, and mix screen. We're on the play screen right now, and essentially you can kind of get started straight away here, can't you? It does everything that you kind of want to straight out of the box.
You can, yeah, and the play screen's kind of like your very quick get going, and probably where like most people spend most of their time, because you can use this screen here to go through different sets, which we'll get into in a second. And there's these macro controls along the bottom there. So you've really got a lot of hands-on stuff straight on this screen. And then there's other screens for doing more in-depth editing.
Well, let's have a quick look at these other screens. So if you want to go deeper, of course, then edit is where you get into the sort of the next layer down, and then where you can design the zones and all this other stuff. It's a modular system essentially, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Everything's sort of modular within this, so you can kind of grab components from other sets, which is what Sensory Percussion call their kits. So a kit preset is called a set. You can grab a snare drum from this one, melodic stuff from over there, and assign it to different zones within this screen here. But it does a hell of a lot more than that as well.
So the customization is just kind of almost mind-blowing and very deep on what you can do.
Yeah, almost limitless, I would say.
Yeah, great. And then the third one then is quite simple. It's the mix window, so we can actually just adjust the levels of each individual.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got kind of master effects and things like that. But a lot of that stuff is also, you can set it up so that that's accessible from the play window, so that you may not need to kind of keep switching between screens and stuff. So it's set up more for being able to play easily. Yeah,
that's great. So when you're actually playing, you're on the play screen. So we'll go back here. So describing a bit of what's going on.
Yeah, so across the top there you've got 7 sets, and that's arranged into what's called a session, which is the overall kind of thing there. So you can have all of your different sensor configurations, and a whole list of different kit setups, and save that as a session for recalling later on. So along the top you switch through them, and you're essentially loading a new kit.
So if you want to kind of adjust any sort of session and like add stuff to it, we can come out of this little menu on the side here, can't we?
That's right, yeah. Sensory Percussion comes with a number of its own kind of sample packs and sound packs here, and each one of these that we can see here is loadable as a session, so a collection of kits, or you can go through and add individual sets into your own session.
Okay, yeah, so if we double tap each one, then it loads up.
Yeah, so each one of those is a set, and you can drop those into your own session.
All right, well, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go with AT Snappy Drum Kit. In you go. There, done. And that one's ready to go in. And I'll select that. And that's what that looks like. Awesome. So going back to, each individual one, obviously the naming might not kind of allude to as to what's happening here, but there is this little description on each one, isn't there, which is quite handy.
Yeah, it's really useful, and everything's sort of laid out nice and cleanly, and it's very kind of graphical. But if you drop down on the kind of more tab there, then it explains to you exactly kind of where things are routed, and because there are so many zones doing so many different things, it's quite handy to have a little bit of a description to know that you know, if you hit that rim, then it switches certain things in and out, or if you hit the center of that tom towards the edge, then you're going to get different sort of fluctuations in pitch. Sometimes things are connected via like velocity. So there's lots of ways of manipulating the sound and the way that you're playing.
Oh, great. So Stu, elsewhere on this screen, we've got our virtual inputs section, which we can kind of actually start firing off some of these, like an audition, each sound from zones and things.
Yeah, that shows you what sensors you've got connected into the portal at any one point. So obviously there are more inputs here than we have sensors. We're just using the 3 that come with the kit, but you can add them and define them and they appear down there. And within there you can sort of audition and check out what's on each zone.
Without actually having to worry about, you know, the hitting the kit at that point. So, and on the right hand side we've got our layer mix, which is just the levels of each sound essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, it gives you like a quick view of essentially I suppose what you'd have in the mixer screen, but without having to delve and change screens while you're playing or anything, so you can tweak things there. Yeah,
but possibly I'd say, personally, for me, I think the real power is in what is the macros down on the bottom row here, and it was basically there are so many different controls you can assign to each zone and how you can affect all the sounds and all that sort of stuff, isn't there?
Yeah, and what this does is this is quite a good example really, because each of these sensors and the software can react to multiple things, like we said earlier, playing dynamics, kind of speed as well as velocity, and you can use that to kind of influence what's happening here. And on this kit, the floor tom has got some kind of melodic tonal sounds mapped across from the center to the edge. And you probably just saw it there, the delay macro at the bottom.
Just here.
Yeah, that's been linked to playing dynamics. So every time you hit that, depending on how hard or soft you hit the floor tom, it's going to change the level of the delay. So, like if you kind of hit it quietly, you can see it sort of staying fairly moderate there, but you can start.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And get a lot more delay.
And
it doesn't have to be delay. It could be kind of, you can attach that to any macro control or any control and create a macro from that, which is then accessible from the play screen.
Right, so everything's all set up. We've gone through the software, so we know how everything's working. I think now's the time to hear actually what it sounds like.
Yeah,
and you to start playing.
Let's try out some sounds.
Yeah, cool.